Hi everyone! This tutorial explains how to use plugins and create basic composites using the Node tree on Scratch version 9. Scratch comes with a number of its own effect plugins, but also supports the OFX plugin interface and as of version 9 also Matchbox shaders. This means you can use any plugin set that also supports OFX or Autodesk Matchbox with Scratch. Best known are these OFX plugin vendors: Revision FX, Digital Anarchy, Boris FX, Neat Video, Lightspace CMS, and Film Convert Pro. In this tutorial we will first look at how to add a plugin to a particular shot, and second, how to add a plugin to an output node or a complete timeline, so to speak. Okay, so let's start by going to the Color FX tab. Here we have a shot that already has a grading layer on it. But first I want to draw your attention to the Plugins button right here, which opens the plugin browser. Let me select this Matchbox shader here. Now as you can see, at the bottom of the plugin browser I can choose whether to insert the plugin as a layer onto my current shot, or to add the plugin as a new node to my node tree. Let's first add the plugin as a layer, and therefore create a layer, and then add the plugin to it. If you select the primary layer in the layer stack before opening the plugin browser, and then add the plugin as a layer, Scratch will automatically create the layer with the plugin. Otherwise, it will just insert the plugin onto the currently selected layer. To add the plugin as a layer, you can either click the corresponding button down here, or conveniently double-click the plugin. To manipulate the plugin, we need to select the Node menu. Normally, here are the source shot controls such as deburring or decoding settings, which we can bring up by selecting the primaries layer. If we have a layer selected, however, this page normally would be empty, simply because a grading layer as such doesn't have any deburring or decoding settings. But if the layer contains a plugin, we will find the controls of the plugin in this menu. This way of adding a plugin to our shot is especially helpful on shots that need additional compositing with lens flares and the likes. We always have access to the controls and can also move the plugin layer around or disable it if needed. If we swipe to the right and take a look at our node tree, we can see the plugin feeding directly into our source shot onto this layer. A more detailed view can be brought up by clicking the Structure View button down here. Now let's add another plugin. This time we first select the primary layer to have Scratch create the plugin layer for us. The structure view is updated and we have the controls available in the Node menu. As you can see, this plugin has handles in the viewport to set up the effect. These controls are only available when in the Node menu. When we jump to, for instance, the primary menu, the regular layer outline is available again. Next, let's have a look at an alternative way of applying a plugin. Therefore, let's get rid of the plugin layers here and start over again. Now pay close attention to the node tree here, as we will be applying the plugin as a new node downstream from the current source node. Let's choose a different plugin now. Maybe Scratch's own Retimer plugin. Okay, now looking at our layer stack, we can clearly see Scratch has not added our plugin as a layer. Also, our already existing grading layers seem to be gone. If, however, we look at the node tree, we can see that Scratch has added the plugin as a node on top of the original shot. The original shot with its fancy grading layer on it, serving as an input for the new plugin node. By the way, you can easily identify a plugin node by looking at the lower left corner of a thumbnail. The little puzzle piece icon indicates that this is actually a plugin node. If we open the Inputs menu, we can also see the original source shot being fed into the plugin. Here we can also set various options, such as whether we want the grading of the source shot to be fed into the plugin or not. A nice side effect of adding a plugin as a node on top of the current one is that we can now cache this plugin. If you're using a processing-intensive plugin like a denoiser, you might want to cache the effect of that plugin to retain real-time playback. This can easily be achieved by going to the Media menu and clicking the Cache Input button. Once the input of this node, and with it the actual effect of that node, is cached, we can continue to add grading layers that will be processed on the fly using the cached media. Very important to remember, plugins that use temporal filters, such as denoising plugins, should never be used on layers, as that might lead to artifacts and freeze frames in the image. Now each of these methods of applying plugins, by adding them onto layers of the current node or adding them as a new node, has its purpose. There where, for instance, a lens flare would be more suited to be applied on a layer, the Scratch Retimer plugin can best be used by being added as a new node. As a little side note, you can also double-click a plugin with the Alt key pressed. This will attach the plugin node to your cursor and you can drop it anywhere in the layer stack, in the Fill Matte or Inputs menu, or even in the node tree. The node tree is great when dealing with bigger composites, like on this shot, where you need to quickly navigate to various different nodes in order to work on them. When doing so, you can always work in dual view, with one viewer showing the whole composite and the other one the current node, or just lock your viewport to the currently selected node by clicking the lock icon here. Okay, let's go to the Render tab. Same as with an individual clip, we can enter color fix with any output node by clicking the play icon inside the thumbnail and apply plugins to it in the same manner as we did earlier with the clip. In the following example, we will add a Field Merge Matchbox shader to our entire timeline. So, instead of adding it as a layer to our output node, which we could easily do as well, let's add it as a new node downstream. You will see the difference in the render menu in a second. Once loaded, we can set up the field merge with the various parameters of the shader. Going back to the render menu, we can see that by loading the plugin as a new node, we have indeed added another output node to our node graph. Same as with the individual clip before, Scratch added a node to the tree and uses the original shot, in this case our main output node, as input for the new plugin node. Now every output node added behind or downstream this node will receive the field merge as well. I can save this output template together with my Matchbox shader and all output file masks, etc. Okay, so just to recap. In Scratch you can insert a plugin on either an output node or an individual shot inside the timeline. You can either add a plugin as a layer onto an existing shot or node, or add it as a new node downstream, which uses the current node as its input. This concludes the Scratch plugin tutorial. You should now have the fundamentals on how to add plugins and set up basic composites in Scratch. Have a nice day. Bye.